everyone, this is Storian, and today we'll be talking about another one of my characters, but really quick. Small trigger warning. I'm not sure if this would trigger anybody, but I don't want to make the mistake of not saying something beforehand. This character has a condition or personality trait that we'll be talking about and discussing in this video. Keep in mind, I am not a doctor nor a therapist. All of the information stated about this condition or personality trait is strictly based on the research I have done. I do not personally have this personality trait, nor do I think I know anybody who does. But if that is alright with you, let's continue on with the story. This character is named Krin, and I personally really like him. He actually appeared briefly in a short I did quite a while ago. He was just a drawing and really didn't get much of an explanation. In his original story, he was a shapeshifter and would often wander around trying to figure out what made people people. He didn't understand a lot, and that's actually what led into me discovering this personality trait. I always intended for Krin to be a bit emotionally distant. Not that he wants to be, but in the case of he truly doesn't understand emotions, his own or others. And eventually I got curious, wondering if that had a name. And I found it. It's called alexithymia. And notice how I've not been calling it a disorder. That's because it's not classified as a disorder. It's known as a personality trait and often seen as a trauma response. What makes Krin and Destray different in their emotional stability is that Destray does in fact feel all the emotions that he bottles up. Krin, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily understand them or really even feel them. Oftentimes they more confuse him than anything else. People with alexithymia also sometimes can't tell the difference between physical and emotional needs, such as hunger. This can lead to Krin forgetting to do basic needs, such as eating and sleeping, until he is quite literally passed out from exhaustion. And that is one of the main reasons I added that trigger warning. Many people could assume that that means he has some sort of eating disorder, and I can't really confirm nor deny that. I have no direct evidence to prove this, but in my opinion, it seems like alexithymia may very easily lead into many mental illnesses. And the problem with that is that there is no direct cure. It's not something that you can take medicine or that you could fully heal from. Yes, you can go to therapy and get help, but it will never truly be gone. And within the world Krin lives in, therapy isn't necessarily a thing, and even if it was, his family wouldn't be able to pay for him to have it. Krin exists within the surplus, and as I said in the last video, essentially means they can barely afford to eat. They don't have enough money to get him the help he needs, so he navigates his life confused by every emotion, his own and others, eventually till he stops truly feeling them. With all that being said, Krin still manages to make friends and connections, specifically with another character we'll talk about probably in the next video, and because of his lack of understanding from the people around him, he tends to be a lot quieter, often keeping his opinions to himself. At some point, it might even be to where multiple characters forget he can talk, believing that he's mute until he starts talking. Krin has truly been through a lot, some of which I haven't even written for myself yet. I'm still very much figuring out his character and putting pieces together, but from what I know, he's gone through so much, and he's barely 14. He's actually one of the youngest cast members of the story, with most of the other cast being 16 or older. The cast kind of all see him as their little brother, who follows them around. Unlike most little brothers, however, they're really fond of him. I didn't mention this in the last video, but a part of the rules for the surplus is that they are not allowed to attend a funded school. So essentially, they can be taught by whoever they want. It's just whoever that person is isn't getting money from the government. And that essentially means teachers within this world are even more underpaid and often have to teach way more students than the average teacher in our world. It also means that many students have classes with students much older or much younger than them, at least being taught in the same room. Krin was one of those kids. He was taught in the same room as most of the cast, but was being taught something else, but seemed to take more of an interest in what they were learning, and eventually graduated into their class. Although he doesn't understand his interest in what they're learning, he does enjoy it. This kind of leads to him being bullied at a sort, because of him being much younger than some of his classmates, and because he's borderline a nerd, which nowadays is more of a compliment. But within his world, unless you're a part of the nobles, being smart really doesn't help you. The surplus is filled with many families just trying to get by, but it's also filled with criminals, and they kind of run the streets there. If I'm being entirely honest, if the surplus were to all team up, they could very easily overpower the safeguard, but they just can't. There are too many clashing personalities, and everything just wouldn't work out. The moment any of them try to form some group, there's immediately a fight. Essentially, in the surplus, you stick to yourself, or with a close group of friends or family. You don't really branch out from that. Circling back for just a moment to the alexithymia, a few people suggested that perhaps he is a sociopath, which are known to not experience emotion like most neurotypical people do. And as far as I understand, both sociopaths and alexithymia is their one difference, is being one you are born with, and the other is something you develop as a trauma response. And I truly don't know which I prefer for Krin. I haven't really developed much into his family life, but at the same time, there are so many characters within this book already that have traumatizing family lives. It seems kind of off to have every character have a bad family life, because although there are people with bad family lives, that's not everyone. It wouldn't be accurate. This is all kind of to say that I'm still kind of on the fence on whether or not he has alexithymia or he was born a sociopath. I'm honestly leaning more towards alexithymia just simply because I find it just a little bit more interesting, probably because it's something I had never heard of before looking into it, and it is overall very interesting. That is not me saying it's cool to be either. I just simply find it very interesting. I have personally always loved trying to figure out how other people's brains work. That's one of the reasons I have so many characters, is because I enjoy figuring out why someone would be some way. I also mentioned earlier in the video that I just personally really like Krin, and perhaps that's a factor of why I love Krin, is because he's a manifestation of that interest, in my opinion. I think Krin is definitely going to be one of the characters I come back to another time and discuss further once I've developed him just a little bit more. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and to see y'all next time.